have never twirled a day in my life.
Well, welcome everybody to Twirl Talk Tuesday. And everybody's in the Arctic freeze just about except for Tammy here. And tonight I've really called on friends and family because I thought it would be really fun as I was kind of observing some things around me as I'm watching people and how they operate, to talk about creativity and design, because it's such an intangible, but yet I think that every one of these people kind of have a process, even if they don't know it. So I want to be able to bring on friends and talk about what inspires creativity, what inspires your design, and what you're doing. So first up is the twirler in the group that the twirlers who watch this will know is Lori Perkins. And I knew Lori from eons ago as a competitor, and then have watched her evolve as a coach, parent, judge. And she's just been someone that I have really admired and respected, from her creativity, from her approach to things, her kindness. And I think that she's just one of those, all of these people are super humble, which really draws me to them too. But Lori, thank you for coming on tonight. I can't wait to talk about your creativity.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining. Next up is a friend, a lifelong friend just about, Jeannie. And Jeannie Henderson has been the mastermind and workhorse behind several different businesses. But the way I've watched her navigate the latest one that she's had has been really fun, especially it hasn't been fun because of the pandemic. But to appreciate and respect what she's been able to do from a philanthropic standpoint and a leader standpoint, it just makes me just really inspired to watch how she's navigated. So Jeannie Henderson, and she has Jeannie Cleaning right now. Thank you, Jeannie, for taking the time out.
Yeah, excited to be here. It's gonna be fun.
Next up is good friend and just inspiration by her just showing up sometimes. And the way that she does her home and the way that she does parties and the way that she dresses and all those things that you look to for a friend and go, gosh, this is why I have this person in my life, because I need to be inspired. So this is Tammy Walker. And she is always very humble in the way she describes her talents, or what she doesn't even describe her talent. Let me put it that way. But the way she describes herself. So Tammy, we're going to tap into you, and you're going to be lots of like, oh, Kyle, but I think that you just have some gifts that really we need to talk about.
Thank you so much for including me in this, Kyle. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, I want to get to know all your secrets. And then next up, calling on family, is Allie Morisi. And Allie is an educator and a visual, would you call it a visual artist?
I say lettering and illustration usually.
Yeah, and it's been fun to watch. So Lettered by Allie, she has a lettering business, and I've been able to sit and watch her create. My granddaughter adores what she does. She's her aunt, and she gets to she made a coloring book for her, and she made a graphic for my husband and I from our wedding, and now has printed apparel and bags. And so it's fun to watch what you've been able to do, Allie. So thanks for taking the time out.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I just want to start from ground one and kind of circle all of you. And so Lori, did you grow up feeling like you had a creative gene, or what has brought that out in you?
Absolutely not. I did not grow up feeling that way. I was actually really shy. I'm still pretty shy. But I think what got me into designing was actually a color guard person. So I've always had Karen Ogden, my coach, and baton twirling coach, as a mentor. But Philip Mayar was a rifle instructor for Nouveau in 1993. And that was my first experience with winter guard, color guard. And he tapped into my ability to teach. And he told me after a color guard competition one time that he thought that I had a symphony going on in my head. And I never thought about that before. And he encouraged me to come and teach a camp with him. And then he left. He moved from the city that we were living in, and he left it with me. He had just designed the opener for our high school show, And then he moved away and left the rest for me to do. And I was terrified. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I've never done color guard before. I've only marched one half of a season. And then I did it. I finished it. And he told the band director he believed in me, left it in my hands. And then whenever I listened to the tapes that the judges left, they couldn't tell the difference between the designer of the opener and the rest of the show. And then from then on, I thought, okay, well, maybe I do have something that I could do with this talent. And so he's the reason that I choreograph today.
Oh, I think that speaks so much to a mentor and the vocalization of someone believing in you. That just that moment of rewarding your gift when you didn't even know you had it, that doesn't only speak, I think, to creativity, but leadership. So
it wasn't my apparatus. I wasn't strong with rifle. I didn't feel comfortable in color guard at all. And he just left it to me and said, you can do this. And believed it.
How liberating, and what a gift to everyone that he did that. Well, that's really inspiring. Allie, as an educator, I'm sure you're hearing that with your educator's ears, but so tell me about, did you grow up with a gift for drawing? Or have you nurtured it?
So I would say as a kid, I loved drawing and I liked all different aspects of being creative. I was really into theater and things like that. But then in high school, I was in a art class and my teacher shared my work and talked about how badly it was done. And so I feel like ever since then, I kind of shut that off. I didn't pursue any more art classes. I was done until, similarly to you, Lori, and what Kyle was saying, I feel like hearing people affirm that I had talent for art when I would draw things up. I mean, I doodled something for my sister-in-law, Jill, for her wedding shower, and people would compliment that. And I drew something for that we used at her wedding. That was like a huge starting point for me because I was hearing from people that what I was making was good. And I was like, maybe this is something I should try. With a friend of mine's push, I started doing more lettering specifically. And then through that, I've tried different things, more illustration, and I've continued to pursue it. And yeah, so I would say I'm nurturing it now, but I took a break for a while.
Yes. And I think also there's a really good discussion about like the tools around you, as well as the people around you, the tools around you, because it's been fascinating to me to watch you do something with, I had no idea that, a tool was out there like that. Yeah. That is kind of your little toy that is, I don't know. Do you feel like it's helped you shine in the methods that you're doing things, or are you just always discovering new methods?
I really am always discovering new things. I'll take classes for different things and I'm always learning more. So then I feel like it helps me build on what I'm doing, where it started as just lettering and then now combining different things and doing things both on paper and on my iPad. Yeah.
It's crazy to watch. And let alone, Evelyn asked me to draw a unicorn. And I'm like, Mana's got nothing. No. So Tammy, you are so incredibly creative in the way that you approach, the way that you dress, the way that you put outfits together, the way that you do your home, the way that you do parties. So is that also a talent you think that you've always had? Or is it something that how do you do that?
Well, again, thank you. But I was raised by a mother who had 4 children, who was a housewife, who had to be creative in feeding us all, keeping the house together. I think, I looked at her for what she did. But my parents were also perfectionists. So I really liked order and balance. And I see that in design and walking into a room and seeing if, that the room is balanced and that your shoes match your belt, or that, you carry down from the top down to the bottom for what you wear. So I think I get that a lot from, I guess, my mother. And in schooling, I was really into databases and numbers and the order of everything. You probably don't know this, Kyle, but when I was in high school, I competed in filing. Who does that? Who does that?
In what?
In filing.
Wow.
Like filing.
That's awesome.
Like, I don't know, the alphabet.
Is
So
this like
anyway,
a DECA thing? Was this a business
so
class?
it was Business and Office Education Club. So it was BOEC actually. But yeah, I was really into that. Loved to crochet, loved to sew, loved to waste a lot of time that makes absolutely no money at all.
Okay, but so Tammy is one of those people. So the Lanai so we're just getting our Florida home settled because long story, but the Lanai was just an area, like for 4 years, I've been able to ignore this place because we were renting it. And now I can no longer ignore it because we're buying it. And so I can redo all the things in this place. And this woman walks out and literally moves like 5 things around. And all of a sudden it's a whole new place. And that gift of that person that can walk in the house and just turn something a different way. And all of a sudden it's artistic. And it's like, I don't have that gift. My creativity is in different ways. So I think it's interesting, like the 4 people I have here to cross over could probably have input on each one, but I think what each of you have is very specific. So thank you, Tammy. We have more to talk about. So Jeannie's a whole different side of it. So Jeannie, as a business owner, entrepreneur, leader of people, Jeannie, did you realize as you became a business owner and running very different types of businesses, did you realize you were being creative?
I didn't. I always thought I was more on the business side, like what Tammy was talking about. I always thought I pursued business education and actually studied to be an accountant. But I found very quickly once I started doing that work that I was not loving it. And I had always been doing creative things all my life. I've been always drawn to helping with fundraising and nonprofits and, charitable work and things like that. So I was always creating events and fundraisers and things like that. But when I got into business, I started getting drawn to helping with the marketing and the community involvement and the employee engagement piece. And those things drew me away from accounting very quickly. Within probably about 1.5 years of getting into our business, I handed over all the books to somebody else and took over all of the marketing and employee engagement work. And that's what drove me through all of my years. I was in the restaurant business before now. And so, yeah, the creative side came out just naturally. I think I thought I wanted to work with numbers, but yeah, it's not where I was meant to be.
Was it driven, do you think, more by necessity or more by passion?
Oh, definitely passion. Yeah, because I probably should have been doing the accounting, but instead, chose to work on designing a marketing campaign. So it definitely was. It was by choice that I was drawn to that and had natural ability to it. Right. I just was drawn to that.
Okay, so let's talk about inspiration and what feeds you. So Lori, so there was a mentor who started you, and then you and I were able to have little side conversations sometimes about different programs and routines and things that are like, oh my gosh, this is good. Or maybe, the judges didn't reward this, but holy smokes, this is good. What feeds you creatively?
Just about anything. I guess mostly the music for me. I'm really drawn to different styles of music. The music has to really speak to me for me to feel creative. Lots of times an athlete will bring a piece of music to me that they want me to design to, and it's going to be a flop if I'm not feeling it. So I think that that's what inspires me, is just being able to connect to the piece of music.
That's why me as a choreographer is always very selfish. No, the kids, like, you don't even, when they have music that they want, and I'm like, you don't even know what's out there and what's possible. And at least for my process was like, I would hear a piece of music and all of a sudden, like, I can see it. I can see the kid, I can see the music, I can see the program. Is that how it works for you?
Sometimes I'll let them do it, and I'll just tell them, honey, it doesn't speak to me, but if it speaks to you, I can do it. I'm just going to tell you, if you'll trust me, I can find you something that's a lot better for you. Most of the times they'll trust me, but a lot of times they don't, and they want to go with their heart. So I'll do the best I can for them, but I know it's going to flop.
And do you find the music to be the blueprint for everything for you?
Absolutely.
And
it goes back to what Phil said about the symphony in my brain, because when I choreograph, it's in my brain. I don't even have to pick up a baton. I don't touch a baton whenever I choreograph. I just see it and tell them what I think what needs to happen. And that's how I choreograph.
Well, I was the little girl that turned on the record and just started dancing. That was my play. Was that you?
Absolutely.
And that's what, I can't listen to music for pleasure because I'm constantly choreographing. Can you listen to music just and turn it off?
No, I don't ride in the car with the music on. It'll give me a headache. I have to turn the music off.
No wonder we get along. I get it. So, Tammy, tell me about inspiration for you. Where do you look at something and go, that's cool?
Let's see. Obviously, shoes, right? You start with the shoes.
Now, wait a minute. No, give your theory. Not everybody thinks like that.
So, what do I look at for inspiration?
Well, no, like you build your outfit from the shoes up, correct?
Right. Okay. So for an outfit, I like, if anybody ever compliments you about what color you're wearing, remember that color. If anybody ever compliments you on an outfit, remember that outfit. I try on a lot when it comes to clothes. I just try on a lot. And if I see an outfit that works, I take a picture of it and I keep it in my phone and I refer to that. When it comes to designing a room, stand back by the door and look into the room and look at everything to try and make it look. First impressions are a big deal. So when you first walk into a room, see what looks right.
And so what makes you feel good? Do you know when you've done something that you've put together? Do you know internally, or do you know from other people?
Well, I guess it would be internally. I mean, I know what looks right to me. I'm a really detailed person, so I look at all the details and line it up, try and get balance from one side to the other, and try and make it look right.
I wish I could explain, like, just watching you come together with this place that you have there. It's just fun to watch. And for me, like, in areas like that, I've never had an original thought in my life. I have to look at if I see it in a magazine, or if I see someone with an outfit, then I want to replicate that. But when it comes to creativity like that, I mean, it's just such a gift, because for me, there's not one original thought.
So nothing for me is primary. Everything's secondary information. I steal ideas all over the place. I'm a big Googler. I'm a big HGTV. I'm a big magazine girl. When one time I wanted an outfit for New Year's, and I found an outfit in a magazine, and I went out and replicated every part of that outfit, down to the gold dress, the black tights, the black shoes. So yeah, I repeat a lot. I steal a lot. I steal a lot from you and Jean Henderson, for sure.
For sure.
That's why a lot of times we show up at places and we have the same outfits on.
It could be. But I think, like, in choreography, it's the same thing. Like, we've had some discussions about plagiarism. And I think, if Da Vinci didn't do the first something and somebody took their own twist on it, we wouldn't have, you know, progress. So I think all of style, all of art, all of progress is about taking an idea and putting your own twist on it. Now, stealing it flat out, yeah, that's plagiarism. So, but to be able to use it as inspiration, I think is entirely different. So inspiration is important. I think that we'll talk about that, but well, let's go ahead, Allie. So your inspiration and what motivates you or what drives that creativity?
I love anything that is nature related. Mountains, flowers, you'll see a lot of those things in my artwork. I also really like affirmations and positive quotes, or even things that are very real, but just anything that sends a message that resonates with me. So that would be in terms of my lettering, but then, you know, in terms of more illustrations, I really like to do things related to nature.
And I saw like you did a nature thing that was inspired though by a light fixture.
Yeah. So I shared something today on my Instagram where the shape, the outline is based on the light fixture in our dining room.
Yeah, and don't you think the artist in you is always looking around at things like that?
1000%. I mean, I always have to have like a notepad or, you know, the notes in my phone, because I'm constantly thinking like, I have this idea and I have to write it down, even if it's like as I'm laying down to bed, because I know if I don't write it down, I won't remember. So
yeah, oh my gosh, I'm right. I'm hearing a common thread here. And the common thread is about how it's just pervasive, that what you're thinking about and what you're inspired by is just, it's not a one moment thing, it's an everyday thing. So Jeannie, for you in business, what drives you more? You're very inspired by the mentors that you choose, and I really love that. I love that you seek other people and you seek leadership. But what inspires you to be creative in how you're approaching your business?
I think that approaching business from the creative side instead of, let's say, the profit side or the production side, when you approach business from the creative side, it really helps to differentiate your business from all the others. You know, there are plenty of other companies that do what I do, and but we like to bring to it our own flair and creativity. And I'm really driven by what my work and the work of my team, how it makes other people feel. It's all about the feelings. And so I work really hard on what feeling are we trying to generate here, because that will get us to whatever goal we've set for that particular project. And so I love that we get to be creative in doing that. I'm terrible with the financial side, so I always have to get people to help me with that, because otherwise I would just not make a penny, because I'm always so worried about, well, we just have to grow at any cost, and you know, we have to achieve this particular feeling that we're going for in this particular campaign. And so I'm glad that I am able to surround myself with people that kind of rein me in on those other areas that I'm weak in. And that's where having mentors and team members who complement the things that I'm not strong in are so important to me.
Okay. And I'm hearing that from people too. So that naturally segues us to the last year. And so the last year, obviously, the challenges have been in so many areas, physically, mentally, spiritually, economically. So I want to ask each of you for some words that, as you think ahead, what has been a problem and how have you creatively approached it? Lori, so just from the standpoint of what we do, you know, everyone's had to get creative, but how have you tapped into that to keep things going for yourself and your students?
I think one of the biggest problems I've faced is with my teams. And we had two, and I know this makes no sense to those of you that aren't in the twirling world, but I had two teams of 8 members that we're planning to do the pre-trials program in our organization. And they're at 2 different levels. And so as the kids start dropping out and doing different things, and they're losing their motivation to do all of this because we can't get together and practice the way that we had before. And there's no motivation with competition. So now trying to combine who's left into one team, and then there's 9 now, and only 8 members can compete at one time. And I've never dealt with the alternate position before, and trying to navigate that world. That's been a real struggle for me this year, picking who does what, who gets to twirl, who doesn't get to twirl. Am I going to make it a large team? That's been hard for me. So I have started routines and then thrown them out and started over again and picked new music. And it's just been a challenge to decide which direction I was going to go. And then combining the ability levels of the twirlers and putting them all together. I've really been having a hard time with what I'm going to choose to put forward out there. And then deciding, are we really going to have competitions this year? Is it worth it at this point to put those kids in that situation? Teams is what I do. I mean, I have a lot of individual twirlers, but is it safe to have them exchanging those batons and going into the gym and practicing 12 hours a day like we're used to doing? And those that have stuck to it are doing a great job, but it's really been hard to navigate that these past couple months. And then me coming down with the virus in the last couple weeks. And, you know, now we're at that point. Is it safe to go back and be with those kids again? It's been a really challenging.
That's right. It just keeps coming. Just keeps coming. But I know, Lori, you'll still show people the way. And so I just want to be your cheerleader right here, knowing whatever you choose to do will be the right thing for the sport and for the athletes. And so what about Tammy? What have you had any challenges? You know, so Tammy has a son with a brain injury, and that has its own challenges in life, but then we're dealing with the pandemic too, and its own health risks out there, and dealing with the safety for him and her family. So your positivity, Tammy, and your ability to still come up with fun, creative things, how have you been challenged and how have you overcome it?
Muted.
Oh, Tammy,
Sorry.
go ahead and unmute.
Sorry. I feel like over the last 10 years, I've really had to be creative in trying to figure out how we were going to get through this crisis with Trevor, and how we were going to make our family work, and how we were going to make Trevor work. And while I can't even imagine what it's like being a parent, homeschooling during COVID, or having a business during COVID, and the creativity that takes. But for me, I've really used this time to really self-reflect and figure out who I am and what makes me happy, and trying to rise up from, you know, the depression that I was in, the feeling of like hopelessness with what was going on. And I really feel like I've risen above it because of the time that I've had to kind of be alone, if that makes sense. The world kind of slowed down for everybody, and I used it as an excuse to just figure out, you know, how to handle just our small family. You know, because I think the whole world got so busy. The whole world was running about, and just even managing Facebook was like overwhelming. You know, you look at, like, I don't have this many friends, but you feel like you have to give every one of them individual attention. It was just exhausting. So I just kind of changed that, and I feel so much better, and I feel like my friendships are so much more they're easier, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said before this, everyone has their own belief, but COVID was kind of God's way of saying, you're screwing this up. We just need to stop, reset, and figure this out.
Yeah,
And
settle down.
yeah. Yeah. So Allie, what is your inspiration other than nature? What keeps you drawing? Is it just a release? Is it your desire to give to others? What is the thing that says, I need to draw?
Probably both. I feel like having my artwork through COVID and other things that we've gone through personally has literally saved me. Now I draw because it's like a way to, being home all the time. It's something to pass the time, but I enjoy doing it. I just feel like having that creative outlet has been everything for me through COVID. And I have more time to devote to it. And I think there's also like a thrill in building my business because I just opened up an Etsy shop. That took me a while to get to, but then I opened my shop at the end of October, and then I'm like being able to sell things. That's exciting. So then you're like, oh, what else could I create? What else do people want to see? And so I think it's like so many different things. It's motivation to create things that are meaningful to people, but then also like for my mental health,
Well, you're exciting to watch, but you're an educator and you're passionate about your students. Have you been homeschool? Have you been virtual with your students?
Virtual since March. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you find your artwork to be, even though you're passionate about your work, that's a lot of emotional investment in I hear from you the emotional investment in your students. So is the artwork the opposite then, and is an emotional release?
I would say so. Yeah. It's more of a release.
Yeah. Well, it feels like a good balance just in observing you from afar.
Yeah, it's perfect. I'm grateful for how everything has, worked out. I think that being virtual has also given me the time, because I'm not commuting to and from work. I feel like I just have more opportunity to invest in my artwork as well. So,
and this is where I say there's going to be so many gifts that come out of this. It's just coming out of this. Yeah. So go ahead and say, Jeannie, let me know from your the creative approaches you've had recently. Let's say in the last year with pandemic, I've heard you have to really stretch sometimes on what to do best for your clients and for your employees and for the community. So how has COVID impact your creativity?
Yeah, so in the midst of COVID, I had to learn how to manage crisis in ways that, kept everybody safe and kept everyone happy. And I really tried to, again, just focus on the emotional side of things. I spent a lot of time I read a tremendous amount about what other business people were doing. And I'm part of a much larger community of business owners and business coaches. So, I really leaned into the people around me. On those dark days, I would just lean into my community and, glean some ideas, suck some of their creativity into my life because some days I didn't have it. You get emotionally exhausted and sometimes creativity won't come, in that emotional exhaustion. And I just felt so responsible for all of these people who worked for me that I needed to find a way to keep it going, to continue to provide employment for them. And through it all, it really taught me how to be a better communicator and how to take everybody's ideas and everybody's on a different side of these issues, but then bring it all together so that I was able to serve everyone, serve my staff, serve my clients, and serve my community in all different ways. And it's a minefield out there. You have to be just really careful about every little word that you say and every image that I select to put in my marketing. And, just all of that, it's like this balancing act, but it really, I think, strengthened me and brought out an entirely new side of where I love making video now, which who would have ever thought, right? So it did stretch me in ways that I would never have imagined, but I'm grateful for it. And that's where those little gems will come from this, in the long run, that through all of this, we've all learned something new about ourselves or learned a new skill that we're going to take forward, and we're going to be stronger. But then also the organizations that we're in are going to be stronger because of it, and things like that. So I try not to be grateful for the pandemic, but I am grateful for the lessons that I've been able to learn.
So how have you not been bled dry? So explain to me, because you have given, I've watched you give so much. I've watched you learn so much. What has filled Jean up?
Well, I think that one of the things that I really discovered is that in having a purpose, this huge purpose of, making sure that I keep the business going, but that I'm also in the middle of this, I became a business coach. So I was named a business coach on like March 12th of last year, right before we shut down. And so now I coach businesses all over the place. And I have found that even though they're taking something from me and I'm giving from them, it also fills me up at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so it's a constant cycle. Actually, behind me, I just realized the book, How Full Is Your Bucket, is back there. Uh-huh. And it's just so true. As I'm filling other people's buckets, someone else's bucket is filling mine. And so I'm extremely energized by that. And I find that I'm getting up now at like 4:30 in the morning every day. And I work until, 6 or 7 at night. And I do not get exhausted by that. Where before, if I even thought about that, I would be exhausted.
Okay, when you come visit Tammy and I, we're not getting up at 4:30.
Oh, yes, we are. We're going to go work out. I'll be like, knock.
Okay, so Lori, you've mentioned one person who was your inspiration. Now tell me right now, like quickly, I'm going to change the view here. So I've got like your gallery view, and tell me, who do you watch that you just you glean something from every time?
Oh my goodness. Anything on YouTube. I click through it all the time. A lot of it is just modern dance, contemporary dance, or it's no one certain choreographer. I just click through everything I can find.
The rabbit hole gets deep. When you can just keep going. I just have
to shut it down. I can't watch anymore.
Okay, Tammy, what do you look to that you just go, you're fired up, you're inspired?
Well, I love to watch anybody who has an allegiance to what is good. So if I see someone who I feel is good, I try and take from them, I guess. People in my life who are successful, people in my life who do good things for other people, people who look good, people who are people who have great homes. I look to those people, but mostly I look to people who are good. And I feel like I try and surround myself to people who have an allegiance to what is good.
It's such good information. Allie, is there one artist? Is there one person, one entity? What inspires you the most?
I wouldn't say one, but being on Instagram, one really cool thing that has happened is that there's all these artists that you kind of form these real relationships with. So I love being able to follow people and see them grow their artwork and their businesses. And then we kind of share with each other and boost each other. That's really it. I mean, there's not one person, but just the relationships and watching other people be successful is really cool.
Okay. And Jeannie, same thing. Who's that one inspiration?
I I don't have one inspiration. It's really, it's a lot like what Tammy said. I just try to learn from all of the people around me. And I learned something from everyone. I learned from my children. I learned from the people who work with me. I learned from other people in the community. So I am drawn to people who want to do good in other people's lives. My life philosophy is make lives better. So it's like I'm drawn to people who have that purpose too, but not just one. I love finding new ways to learn from others.
Okay, so let's take it a little bit not so fuzzy. And because I do this, I don't know if I'm the only one who does this, but I also learn by examples of what I don't want. Lori, do you see that?
Definitely.
And so do you watch choreography sometimes you go, no, please, I don't, please tell me if I ever do that.
No, I don't do that. I just try to look for the best in what people do.
Uh-huh.
And you don't see a whole lot of the bad stuff. I mean, you can definitely click through it if you're watching it on YouTube. You just look for the good stuff, but you can definitely recognize it and move on. Right. I think at competitions, it's hard to sit still if you see something bad that's going on. It's easy to get up and move on to watch something else.
Well, I know, like from a parenting example, I was so fortunate to work with so many parents and children, and I always knew because of those relationships what I did want and what I didn't want. And sure. So it wasn't necessarily that I recognized that what was bad. I just recognized what I wanted and what I didn't want. Okay, so best product you've ever created, designed, or proudest of. Think about that a second. So what is one thing that you've worked really hard on or that you've done that you are so proud of? Or you don't have to be proud of it because you're all humble, but something that, you could really go, I'm really proud of that. Tammy, what's one thing?
I can tell you something really recent that I just think is genius.
Okay.
So I look at a lot of model homes. Right. I furnished an apartment and I've looked at a lot of model homes to try and decorate bedrooms. And everybody's using lamps. Everybody has 2 nightstands and 2 lamps, right? Kyle, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
And I don't have lamps yet. It took me a while to get my nightstand. So just recently, I have decided to put push lights on my nightstands instead of lamps. There you have it. Steal it if you want, you guys.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
Explain it. What do you mean?
Little tiny like puck lights. Mm-hmm. And you recharge them, like they have the little USB plugs and everything. Mm-hmm. And so in the middle of the night, if you need light, all you do is you tap it and it lights on, and it only takes up this much room on your nightstand.
Genius.
So now I have flowers instead of a lamp.
Of genius.
That is probably my most proudest moment.
I'll take it. Allie, what's your piece of work that you can go, dang, I did that?
My parents actually commissioned me. They wanted the Beatitudes. They wanted something created by me. And it was so much work to put it all together because they wanted it in like I think it was like 48 inches long. I forget how tall, maybe 24 inches, but I had no idea how I was going to accomplish what they needed me to accomplish in that size. So it was a lot of trial and error and reaching out actually to other artists on Instagram and asking questions. But then I finally was able to make it happen. And so I think that's like the whole learning process of not really knowing what I'm doing, figuring it out as I go, not saying no, saying I'll figure this out. I want to do it. It was really awesome when it all came together, and now it hangs in their home and it's beautiful.
Oh, that's so fun. And I think the learning process really adds to the ability to go, wow, now I did that. Okay, Jeannie, what's your project that you went, okay, either I made it through, I did it, this is okay?
Well, I've done a lot of things and built a lot in my lifetime and created a lot of different organizations. And I never really, it's kind of like when you're talking about choreography, like you don't necessarily, you start with like one element of this thing, you want to be part of your finished, project. And that's the way I have been with my business and with my team. It's like, I knew that I wanted the focus to be around the people. Right. And so I'm just the most proudest of the team that I have created and the relationships that we have and the structure that we have. And that we are always we're always creating. We never stop creating. I have a very creative bunch on my team. And so, I mean, that is just the heart of my business. And every day when I get up and I go there, I'm happy to be there. And it's because of the people that I've been able to bring together and the structure that we've created. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I just feel, it brings me so much joy. And it's a creative machine all in and of itself, so it's really cool.
Well, as I've said, it's been fun to watch, and as a benefactor of what I've been able to benefit from what you grow and what you build, then it's just fun to, kind of watch the product of what you've been working on happen and watch it grow. I mean, it's a continuous thing. It's not stagnant. It's not like it's just going to be static and stay there. It's ever evolving. That's kind of like everything that we're talking about with all of you tonight. It's ever evolving. So Lori, best product.
Oh, it's probably going to be hard to talk about without tearing up a bit, but I did a program for my mentor this past nationals. It's called A Mother's Prayer. And I picked a piece of music because I missed my daughter so much. She went off to college. And then I had the mothers of all of the team kids say a prayer or write some words for their own daughters on the team. And I did voiceovers over the instrumental portion of the music and recorded each of the moms saying the prayer and added that to the music for each of the kids. And then when each one of the prayers happened for the mom, I had to choreograph the individual parts for that particular child and blend that into the program in the team routine. And then at the end, dedicated the whole program to my twirling teacher. It was her 50th anniversary of her studio being open. And then that's the team routine I'm most proud of doing so far.
Well, and it had the most heart. It was beautiful. And not only do you have talented kids and beautiful choreography, but the sentiment behind it. So what I'm hearing too is like the layers. It's not just about that surface one thing. Creativity, can I spell it out? Creativity to me is just such a layered item that it has so much to do with tangible, intangible, your soul, your heart, all of those different things. So now let's take it back for just a second about when you fall flat, when you don't feel creative. What is your answer to that? So Tammy, do you ever have a time that you don't feel very inspired or creative? And if you do, what do you do about it?
Well, so whenever I want to create anything, if I want to plan a party, if I want to change a room, if I want to figure out what to wear to a wedding, I always Google. And I Google in that, like the exact question, what do I wear to a wedding? In what particular day and I Google everything whenever I have a block, and then I'll just start making a list and I'll write a list and always start with an outline and build upon that. And pretty soon I have a whole story of what I'm going to do. especially parties. I'm really into planning parties, and it starts off with just a little tiny theme, maybe what someone likes, or I'll Google the date and see if there's a theme to the date. And once I find a theme, then I find a theme color. And so I constantly am looking at that color. I'm constantly looking at that theme to develop a party. So like I say, I have no primary information. Everything is secondary. Everything is taken from someone else's creative idea. I think we're all just rolling balls of gathering information till we become our own. And I'm of everybody else that I've taken ideas from, well, to make me unique in that.
Another common thread I'm hearing is that I think the group of you are a really interesting combination of right brain, left brain, that doesn't feel like it's dominant one side or the other, but there's parts that complement each other. So Allie, what do you do with artist block?
So it's funny you ask, because this weekend I'm trying to like keep up, with growing my Instagram. So I made a reel about answering this exact question. And a reel is kind of like a TikTok video, like a mashup of things. So I had 5 ways to spark creativity when you're feeling a little bit of block. So for me, things that help are taking a class. There's a program online that I have a membership to, so I can take classes on all different topics. It's called Skillshare, but I can do illustration, I can do lettering, whatever it is, and then that always helps. Also, looking back at my own work and getting inspired maybe to recreate something or to like bounce off of whatever I've done in the past. Looking at photos of places that I've been or lived that might inspire me. Those are 3. But I think there's a lot of different ways that I go to. Sometimes it's just taking a break. Sometimes I need to just honor that too, that maybe I want to create something, but my body or my brain just need a rest. So
no, all of that is just something that people don't understand. It happens. And what are you going to do to get through it? So Lori, what about you? What have you done when you're like flat?
Well, you said exactly what I was thinking when I was listening to all of these ladies talk. Is everyone seems to be really analytical and very creative, listening to everybody speak. I won't go into a lesson without preparing for it ahead of time. I have to listen to the music before I'll start choreographing anything. So I always go in with a picture in my head of something that's going to unjam my brain before I even get started. If I'm doing a team routine, I have drawn something out on paper before I get started. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stick with it, and usually I don't, because I go off on tangents quite a bit, and then what happens. But I always go in with a plan to make sure that I don't get those writer's blocks. And fortunately, so far, I really don't get stuff like that.
Well, kind of my time at the university, because we have to produce so much so fast. And I'm so driven by the music that I always have just like you, I always have a plan in my head. I always have it laid out. If I write it out, I'm flat. Like it loses its life the minute I've written it. But if I just go with the music, it's so much more full. And it's so funny because I honestly walk up sometimes and it's such a God thing. So I'm like, please God, just let me have it today. And it's just like, that if for creativity for me, if I structure it too much, it loses life to me. Right. And I just have to let it go, to let it breathe. And I think that that's the hard thing about the pandemic and virtual, is that lack of energy and that lack of feeding off one another, that I'm certainly feeding off all of you tonight. And it inspires me. And I'm so excited. I leave every one of these talks like so happy. My heart is so full. But then in an instructional situation, when I need to respond to who's in front of me, it just changes when that energy is so different. So Jeannie, what have you done when you've fallen flat, when you have lost creativity or lost inspiration? Has that happened?
Yeah, I do. I definitely run into that on occasion. I find that I thrive on pressure. So I always keep that on pretty steady all
Wait
the
a minute.
time.
Out of this group, raise your hand. Who thrives on pressure?
So I, some people are like, oh, you do too much. You try to do too much. You need to slow down, blah, blah, blah. You just exhaust me, and I think when I let the pressure off, that's when I kind of lose my juice. I lose my creativity. I have to be constantly moving forward. I'm like a shark. I'll die if I stop swimming. It's like,
Right.
I just have to keep going all the time. And so I do a lot with time blocking. Deadlines are really important to me because as the deadline approaches, then the project that I'm working on really starts to swim more in my brain. And then I'm like, all right, I got to put this on paper today. I've been carrying it around in my brain for a few days, and then it's born, And so I used to beat myself up for procrastination and having to do stuff at the due date, but then I realized I do my best work that way. So I've learned to live my life that way. That living on the deadline.
It's probably one of those things you don't plan it that way, but then you just respond to what's happening. Mm-hmm. So final idea here. So I would love to help people out that are just starting, that think I'm not creative. I'm not, so how do we nurture and mentor younger people that we want to find their passion, to be successful? Because I look at this group of women and everyone is successful at what they're doing. And other people could easily go, well, she was just born with that. Well, maybe you weren't. Maybe it was, like we've talked about tonight, it was, you were told that you have this gift, or you've nurtured it, or you've been able to create it. So give me some words of advice for a 15-year-old artist, designer, business, wants to own a business, choreographer. Tell them where to go to feed themselves the best. Lori, what are your thoughts on that?
Honest feedback. I think when they do something really well, give them the honest feedback, because they need to hear that, but put them in the situations where that they can thrive, or where that they can succeed. I think I'm really proud of what my daughter's doing. And she is very sensitive to critiques from me, especially. And so I have to be very careful with the words that I pick whenever I critique her work that she's doing with her new students. So if it's not what I would do, I just keep my mouth shut and talk about the technique and the things that she's doing well in that regard. But when I see the choreography that really speaks to me and think, wow, that's fantastic, then I really say something about that and go on, because I just want her to know that she has that gift as well. And then she'll see, wow, so that's what looked good or felt good. And then she'll take that and grow from there.
Well, I think what's hard is watching sometimes that people want to possess their own gifts so tightly that sometimes they don't give it away. And if we don't train people to replace us or to step in and do better than us, then we're not doing our job as the adults in the lives, or the adults in the room. So Tammy, what would you say to someone, now they're going to a blank house, they don't know, they're going to Google because they're going to listen to you. How do they nurture being able to find out what to do with that home, or with their fashion, or with anything they're trying to design in that type of setting?
So are we talking about a 15-year-old? Are we talking about
anyone who would be novice at it that needs help?
You know what? I think that when we look at just this panel alone, we all have different gifts, right? We've all been given talents. We all have things that come really easy to us. Choreography, I can't even remember lyrics. I can't remember an 8-point step or whatever. I can't do that. So I would never expect me to do that. Just like even to design a room or whatever might be my talents. It's okay to have someone else do that for you. Like, you know, I mean, you don't have to possess all the talent. It's grab a friend, grab, you know, a designer, grab someone to help you and find what you do best. Find, like, really look at what you have and lift yourself up that way, especially younger people, because you don't have to be like the person next door. You don't have to be like Tammy or Jean or Lori or Allie. You don't have to be like them. Find who you are and be that person. And I think, I don't know, that's the advice I would.
Totally,
you need someone to do
your perspective, sister, and that's why you're going to do my home too. So, Ellie, what about you nurturing a student who's looking at your work and saying, "I want to do that. I want to be able to do." How do you get them started?
To get started, I think that I would tell them to get started and to be consistent. I think even looking back at what I was creating when I started this little side hustle, I've grown so much, and it's because I've been consistent. So I think that first of all, it's being consistent and then being willing to take risks. You know, that's what has allowed me to grow, is like not saying no to things I really want to do and not waiting for this perfect moment, but just going for it. And then also looking at what inspires you. Look at what is a model of what you would like to create. That was huge for me. And in the beginning, a lot of my lettering, you know, I was mimicking what other people's styles were. And then now I don't look at anything and I have my own. But I had to look at others, you know, for inspiration in the beginning. And I still do, but yeah, consistency.
You all are brilliant. So Jeannie, you do mentor people, businesses. So say someone doesn't have a business, or they're trying to like do something here at the beginning of a pandemic. How are you going to feed the person? How do you feed them to get started or to nurture their innermost creativity?
Well, I love what Allie said. I think that starting is always the most important thing we need to do. I think that people spend so much time thinking about things, and they think that they have to have it, they have to be ready, that they have to be perfect before doing it. And one of my big life mottos that I learned from one of my coaches is done is better than perfect. That you need to just try and do what you can, and now you've moved a step forward. And another big part of anything that we do is failure. You have to have failure to have success. And I was listening to one of my favorite mentors today, and he said, isn't it interesting that suck is part of the word success? We're all going to suck a little bit for a while. And so embracing the fact that we are all going to fail in the beginning, but that's how the most successful people become successful, because they keep trying, they fail, and they learn, they try again. And I just want to encourage people that everything we do in life, there's always a downside to it. And it's like a pendulum. To get really successful, you have to have, unfortunately, an equal amount of failure for that pendulum to keep swinging farther and farther. And that's how I got where I am. Because I tell you what, I've made plenty of mistakes, but I learned from every single one of them, and they made me better.
Well, it's important to hear, I think, because of our social media world, we only see the best.
Yes.
We only see the good pictures. We only see the great performances. We only see, you know, anything bad is a blooper reel that's entertaining or anything like that. So it's like easy to forget that people fail. And every one of us have had those moments, you know, where it's just been hard. And so being able to design things is hard. Being creative isn't always just a gift. It's something you have to work at. And that's huge to hear tonight. I can't thank you enough for literally letting me pull the friend and family card here. But not only did I do that, you're just brilliant at what you do. And I respect, and I try to surround myself with people that make me want to do better all the time. And thank you for being those people. So thank you for joining us tonight. It was not just about a twirl talk. I think this is so much more important than, Lori, just our sport. This is important to people on several levels. So thank you all. I love you all. I want you warm tonight. So Tammy's the only one that's still going to be warm tonight. All of the rest of us are freezing to death. But thank you for your time. Thank you for being my friends. And thank you for everything you're going to give to this talk, and we'll put out into the universe tonight.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.